Great. Thank you very much for the introduction, and it's great to be here. I certainly appreciate your perseverance. It's nothing like being the last speaker on the last day. So I will try to keep this relatively brief and hopefully informative. I'm here today because as a physician, I had a problem. I graduated from the University of Toronto Medical School back in 1989. And that puts me, it's interesting, it puts me about in the mid-range of the profession. About half of the profession graduated before me, about half of the profession has graduated after me. It was interesting when I graduated, it was before evidence-based medicine or the idea of evidence-based medicine had come into common usage. And initially I went into family practice. I went to medical school for 4 years, did an internship, and then I went into family practice. And I found I had a huge problem there because I had to know everything about everything in a sense. I had to know about babies, I had to know a little bit about surgery, medicine, and I found the amount of knowledge I had to know was overwhelming. So what I did was, I didn't feel very good about this, so what I did was I went back to school after 3 years and subspecialized in internal medicine and subsequently critical care. And I did another 6 years. This new process took 6 years. And I get a position at Trillium Health Centre where I currently work, which is an 800-bed hospital just outside of Toronto. And on the first day that I go to work, I look at one of these things. And in a sense, the problem has followed me around. There's still an enormous amount of knowledge that you have to know to apply to your patients. And it's everywhere, it's pervasive. It's in our textbooks, in our guidelines, on our web pages. Literally, there's so much knowledge that we staple all our quality and safety initiatives, to what I call the corkboard knowledge translation tool. All this knowledge, all clearly important, changing all the time, you have to keep it up to date. But the challenge with this is that this knowledge, a lot of it, doesn't drive care. What drives the care of hospitalized patients? It starts with this, that we need to do orders for patients to receive the medications, for tests to be ordered, for to get the radiology tests, for IV fluids. That all starts with an order. And we typically start with a blank order page, and I think everybody's familiar with what the output of this system is that we have to write down all of these diet activity vitals investigations from memory, by scratch, by hand, every single time. And I think if you went outside, to the bus stop where people are standing around and you ran this process by them, I think they would be concerned. Like, is this going to work every single time? I'm definitely confident that if when, I got on my plane from Toronto to fly here, if the pilot had walked back from the cockpit and said, here's your flight plan, that I would not be here right now. I would get off the plane. And yet in medicine, we accept this unstructured approach as being one of the normative ways that we work. You can computerize this, by the way. You can make the handwriting legible. But the fundamental issue is your practitioner having to remember everything from scratch by hand every single time. And that's the key thing. And furthermore, for patients to receive the care, as you know in this audience all too well, has to be integrated into the workflow of the entire medical team. The healthcare system is a complex place. There's multiple professions, multiple departments, and multiple processes. And expecting the individual physician to have the awareness of how their orders are going to work in this complex milieu, it simply can't be done. If you ask your average physician, can you list all the rules around writing a safe medication order? Is it ISMP compliant? And most physicians will ask you, what is the ISMP? So, given this, difficult state of affairs, is there a pathway forward where we can facilitate this knowledge translation and cut down, as in the previous session, the incredible lag time from when people read what's on that corkboard and actually start to incorporate it into their clinical practice? And I think the answer to this is absolutely yes. What if we took that knowledge and rather than requiring people to remember it all the time, write it down as an evidence-based checklist or an order set that's used to directly create the orders? And I've got an example of an order set up here for you to have a look at, and is that the writing's a bit small. But basically what it does is it just takes, a general guideline, which might, say, keeps systolic blood pressure less than 180, and gives you the actual orders to do so in a checklist format. You can have the orders as optional orders, which can be selected. You can have pre-selected orders, which can be unselected if you want to, but are usually done because they're pre-selected. You can include educational statements and warnings into the order sets. You've got all kinds of different ways to make doing the right thing the easy thing. And furthermore, you can structure the content in the order set in what we call modules, which are little little functional units of orders that all do one job, like antibiotic prophylaxis or VTE prevention. So it's great because all the orders to do one thing are grouped together. It acts as a checklist reminder, and they're little Lego blocks of content. If you build one of those things once, you can reuse it over and over again in multiple order sets. So it's a great way for you to standardize care across your organization when you start building these checklist tools and incorporating them into your practice.